Great to see our public works team operating here. This is one of our contractors behind us, and we were together a few weeks ago with our public works team to talk about the Clean Collaborative Initiative, which is helping to clean up and revitalize our roadways and neighborhoods. And hopefully you all are seeing a difference. We definitely can as we're out and about with the tons and tons of trash that they're picking up. Now, we've started paving season obviously way earlier in the year, started as early as January. But we're here today to talk a little bit about all of the paving projects that are coming out of the new budget that went into effect on July 1st, because it's much larger than what we normally see, and that's due to a great partnership between my office, the Metro Council, and our Public Works Department to really work continuously to keep our roadways, our sidewalks, our bridges in good shape. And you all know as you drive around this big city we have of 400 square miles, there is a lot to keep up. Now, take a look at the current location, and you may have noticed as you drove in, preparation work was taking place. Now we've got actual work taking place on Commerce Crossing Drive and Interchange Way. Paving is underway. With the completion of this paving project, we will have paved 85 lane miles of roadways since January 1st, 85 miles. And we project by the time that the paving season is over, which is typically in late November, we'll have paved an additional 115 lane miles, so that'll be about 200 lane miles of roadways paved this year. So that's great progress for us. This is good because we've come a long way. You remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were still really struggling from a budgetary standpoint coming out of the Great Recession. Our annual paving budget back then was only $3 million, $3 million. Starting with the 2016 fiscal year budget, when the economy started improving, I proposed a major increase in funding to address the backlog of streets that needed to be repaved and sidewalks that needed to be repaired also. The council embraced the challenge and one-upped me. They appropriated even more dollars than I had proposed, and I appreciated that. And today, for the current fiscal year 22 budget, we've got a paving budget of $20 million, allowing us to pave an additional 200 lane miles of highway. And we've invested $2 million to complete more than 30,000 feet of sidewalk repairs. We got a lot of sidewalk repairs that we need to have around the city, and when you think about the original city of Louisville and the age of some of those sidewalks, they're in rough shape. We prioritize going from the worst sidewalks to the best, and the worst ones obviously get repaired first. Particularly important with people that have difficulty walking. They might have a wheelchair, a cane, or something like that, that we keep our sidewalks in good shape. Now, on top of that $20 million in the budget, we also have about $30 million included in the approved budget for capital projects like the widening of River Road, the Dixie Highway Streetscape Project, and improvements to Westport Road. And of course, when you put all this together, this increase in paving means a lot more work for the men and women in our Public Works Department, led by our fearless director, Vanessa Burns. I want to give a thank you to her, and you'll be hearing from Vanessa here in a second. But I want to thank Jeff Brown, our Public Works Assistant Director, for really organizing all of these massive projects and figuring out the priority of how things should be happening. So thank you, Jeff. I want to thank our engineering supervisor, Matt Haynes, and his team, and Jeff's team, all of our other engineers and inspectors on the paving team who make sure that the job gets done and that it gets done right. To those folks, a big thank you. Keep up the good work. Obviously, we got a lot to do.
I've had the pleasure in the last week being at press conference talking good news instead of bad news. When the mayor has previously spoke, in 2015, we actually paved 20 miles. We have been paving 200 miles for the last several years. And that, I think, has made a big difference. If you can ride around the city and see what an improvement has been, we're most helpful with the fact that the Mayor Fisher and the City Council has realized that the city needed this infrastructure and asset improvement, and that we've been able, with resources, just like with Clean Collaborative, been able to go forward and improve how we live and travel around in Louisville. Mayor Fisher mentioned Matt Haynes, who's our paving manager, as well as Jeff Brown, who on many a Saturday and Sunday was working on the 3 and 5 year plans. So if it hadn't been for Jeff doing that, we would not be nearly as far ahead as we are. But I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank our residents and the support so that we can go forward and be the best that we can be as a city. And one of the ways that you do that is with being able to drive around. And I also want to thank the winner of 2015 and the 75,000 potholes that we were required to clean up afterwards, which made everyone then say, ooh, I think we need to fix our roads.
Now, to get anything done in our city, obviously, we got to have a lot of partners working together. So the key critical partner is the Metro Council, 26 Metro Council folks throughout our city. I propose a budget, work with them to create a budget, propose the budget to them. They have public hearings. We go through some back and forth with the budget, do some adjustments, and then they vote for the final budget. Then I sign off on that, and there we go. And that happens on July 1st every year when we have a new fiscal year budget. So I'm really pleased that Councilman Mark Fox is here with us today, a retired LMPD major as well. He continued his public service as a council person, so that's when you know somebody's got a heart for public service, which I really appreciate. So, Councilman Fox, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank all of you for being here. This is my third budget cycle, and each year my priorities are the same. Number one is public safety, and number two is infrastructure. And I can't thank the Works Department enough. Matt and I met in this very spot about 1.5 years ago, looking for a way to drive this project to completion. Infrastructure makes all our lives better, and it provides for production and workforce development. District 13, which I am honored to represent, is ground zero of Louisville's economic engine. We're home to Worldport, we're home to Ford Motor Company, and all the build out around it like you see here at Commerce Crossing. That's what kept us going during COVID, and that's what's going to make us thunder, and our economy is thundering. And this is going to continue to drive that action and continue to put our folks back to work and continue to restore life as we knew it before last year. These businesses employ our neighbors. They are strong members of our community, and they're an integral part of a global economy. Looking around here, goods and services go to Worldport, they go to the Osborne Rail Yard, they go to ground transportation systems, and when they leave here, they go around this globe. And I'm really honored to be a part of that. I want to thank the Works Department for their good work. Thank the mayor for his support in this project, which has been on my plate for about 1.5 years, 2 years.
As he said, a special thanks go out to our Public Works team. Also want to thank the Metro Council's Public Works, Bridges, and Transportation Committee, which keeps an eye on these needs year-round so we can make sure that we're working on the right projects along with our team. So we're off to a good start. We know we got a long road to go, so to speak, and keep improving. We're going to do that.
Mr. Mayor and Mark, how do we keep from having to do this every 3, 4, 5, 6 years, regardless of how the economy is doing?
That's a good question. The economy is obviously roaring back right now, which we appreciate, and then we've got the American Rescue Plan funds coming as well. So we basically follow the flow of what our revenues come in, and then our capital budget is a little different. So, we've been allocating at least $20 million to that capital budget ever since the economy has recovered. I'd be shocked if we don't continue to do that. This year we just got kind of the extra bump on top of it as well. But we know the importance of making sure our roads and sidewalks are in good shape. And as the councilman said, that's a fundamental responsibility of government. You want anything, Councilman?
I will just add that I will always fight to have money in the budget to do infrastructure. I said my 2 priorities consistently my first 3 years in office. Speaking to the federal money that we're getting from the ARP, about $388 million in 2 different tranches. We had a meeting last night, a public meeting at the Southwest Regional Library. There was over 100 folks in attendance expressing their views how we should direct that money. There'll be another meeting, if you missed that one, this coming Monday at West Broadway Baptist Church. You can go to LouisvilleKY.gov and find the location and the times for that. I believe it starts at 6. But come and voice your opinion on how this money should be spent. I personally think it ought to go into like 3 to 4 major projects that we can build off of, we can generate jobs off of, and we can make sure that the economy, as Mayor Fisher said, came back so strong, certainly a V-shaped recovery, fortunately, that we continue to drive that forward. And you're looking around, this is ground zero for e-commerce across the country. We are blessed to have the partners in this community we have. And you know, when you have the infrastructure, you build off of it.
Most of this work we use contractors to do. So the biggest challenge to us is project managers. We've got lots of capital projects underway. With the American Rescue Plan coming up, there's going to be lots of needs for project managers with that as well. So that's our biggest constraint. But Director Burns, you want to talk a little bit about availability of labor to do all this work?
That's why I was thanking Jeff, Matt, who's not here, and the other teams, and the inspectors, because we've done an enormous amount of money with not too many more people than we had when we only had a $2 million, $3 million a year project. We are going to be looking and working with the administration and the council for any grants that may affect infrastructure, and then try to make a determination and make our best recommendation if there's a need for additional bodies, whether engineering contracts or additional people that work for Public Works.
We are hiring project managers right now too, so if you guys want to put that on a crawler, we'd appreciate that. We need more good project managers to work for the city. Thank you all very much for covering this and the well-needed infrastructure work we got going on in the city. Thank you.